The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. Open line through till 1 o'clock today. Well, Mr. Cannon says it's completely unsustainable for Manx Care to keep on overspending, as if in the private sector you'd say losing money. The Chief Minister says an urgent turnaround plan is required. I'm reading between the lines there. Completely unsustainable to keep overspending. Urgent turnaround plan required. Does it sound like somebody saying this can't go on? 8 minutes past 12. Anything you want to talk about, by all means get in touch. Mark's with us first. Hi, Mark.
All right, fella. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
Right, just a tiny little one. I won't keep you for more than a few seconds. But have you been along the prom this morning?
Not this morning. No, I was there yesterday.
Right, well, I was pootling along the promenade this morning. I mean, I'm stuck in traffic, so you tend to notice things that you might not otherwise notice. They were building a wall by the Wall Memorial the other week, and now they're knocking it down. I was just wondering, is there a particular reason why they were doing this?
Knocking it down?
Yeah. You know these diggers they have that go... It's like an industrial digger on the end of a thing, and it goes bang, 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 and it chops up all the concrete and the rebar stuff.
Yeah.
They had one of them there, and it was demolishing the wall. And I'm just curious as to why they built it in the first place if a couple of weeks later they come along and demolish it.
I wonder if anybody knows why that is.
Well, I certainly don't, and I'm fairly certain you won't get an answer from the regular, the proper authority. But you might get a bit of Manx skeet, yes, who'll tell you the reason why.
Well, it's Friday. It's skeet day today. We'll try and find out.
Today, mate. Yes, so you'll get all sorts of conspiracy theories about why it's being knocked down.
Right.
That's all, mate. I just wondered if you noticed it. Well, you'll probably notice it if you go home.
All right. Have a good weekend, Mark. Thanks for calling.
Fella. Bye-bye now.
9 minutes past 12. Do you know what's happening then with that wall, no wall, wall, no wall? I can't believe it's not a wall. If you got any ideas, Chief Minister says the turnaround plan for Manx Care needs to happen almost immediately. He couldn't be much plainer, could he? It's after Manx Care forecast £16.8 million overspend for the financial year, despite taxes being raised to contribute to healthcare services. Mr. Cannon says the government has to demonstrate financial discipline, and he will unveil how he plans to address the problem at next week's Isle of Man Government Conference. It would seem the crunch is coming.
The position with regards to the latest healthcare overspend is very, very concerning. It will have to be tackled. There will have to be a turnaround, and that will have to be addressed immediately. And I will make clear to everybody what that turnaround will look like once we've got to an agreement about what its objectives are and when it will take place. But it will have to happen almost immediately. We can only spend what we can afford to spend. And we need to quickly get to grips with our understanding that the money that is being allocated is being used as efficiently and effectively as possible, and also that the organisation, Healthcare, Manx Care, can operate to a financial discipline, meaning that they will stay within their budget. I'll be totally honest with you and with everybody else that it is completely unsustainable for them to continue to overspend their budgets, especially given the amount of money that they received in the last year's budget, and particularly given the fact that that also incorporated a tax rise, which means that everybody has had to contribute more in taxation over the last 12 months, and that Manx Care received a further £20 million in direct taxation, as well as £23 million or so in terms of added extra allowance from the Treasury and from our income receipts. If it's not addressed, it will cause us to have a very serious and negative impact on our reserves in the very short term, and that by itself will be a matter of great concern. So yes, the healthcare spending issue is very, very serious and will have to be addressed immediately. And as alongside that, we will now have to take a very close look at our medium-term financial plans and what that means in terms of government efficiency and reform as well. I will address these issues in my opening remarks alongside a number of other critical priorities for the government over the next 12 months.
Well, he couldn't really be much clearer, could he? That's part of a programme that's going out this coming Sunday. You can hear more of it. Phil Gorn talking to the Chief Minister in Perspective, midday till 1 this coming Sunday. Very, very serious. You heard the words. So we wonder whether Manx Care knew this was coming. They're professional people. What did they think was going to happen? What did DHSC think was going to happen? Anyway, listen on Sunday, noon through till 1. You can also catch it as a podcast on Listen Again. Howard's on now. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. There's that chap that was on earlier on.
Yeah.
When he's saying they're knocking that section of wall down. There's a report on your news within the last week. It was an experiment. They were testing different types of concrete, and apparently they failed. So this was going to be taken down, and then the continuation of the sea wall from the Empress over will be using the concrete they're using over there now. So that piece that was at the War Memorial was a test piece.
Oh, it's a test piece. Oh, I see.
Yeah, and it failed. It didn't reach the expectations, and they are taking it down. I saw that yesterday. So that will be removed. I don't know about the steelwork that's in it, but they're drilled into the existing seawall. They're drilled in and formed, and then the concrete is poured around them. But apparently the concrete they used initially was not the right type, and it just was not suitable for the job.
Right. I wonder whether the promenade's a test as well, Howard.
Well, it's only testing your patience because it's fallen to pieces.
Okay. All right. Are you on duty this weekend, Howard, at the Camera Obscura?
I'm not. We've got family over, so I'm on duty here.
Okay. I'm trying to remember, how many weekends are there left for Camera Obscura?
There's this weekend and possibly next weekend,
okay.
Weather permitting, of course.
Okay. All right.
There was something. Oh, I just about to heard was that the Chief Minister talking?
It was.
Yeah. Refresh my memory. When the Treasury Minister raised the income tax this year,
yeah.
Was that only supposed to be for 1 year, or is it forever and ever? Or is one of these ones that just...
I thought it was a temporary measure just to raise some money in the short term.
Exactly. So how long is this short term? Because I can say, although you don't get taxed on your state pension, it'll not be long before they're doing that, but I have a company pension, runs parallel with it, and my tax has gone up by £40 a month.
That's what, £500 a year extra?
Yep, this is since Dr. Allison introduced this extra 2%. And it was led to believe, as far as I was concerned, it was going to be a temporary measure for about a year. So are they going to just let that slide into the income tax regime and it will continue and never get changed?
Well, everybody will notice if they do.
They may well do, but after April next year, they will only have a very short period of time before there's an election, so they won't be particularly worried. And this is the ministers, etc. So it's one that needs a careful eye kept on.
Wow. Mm-hmm. We'll see. All right, thanks.
And there's another thing there now. I don't have any particular favoritism or otherwise, but if this transgender is going to go through with wanting the payment on the NHS, that's going to be to the detriment of people who are ill, as opposed to a thing that people just want to do. And then in the UK, some of these people who've had transgender operations are now going back to the NHS to have them put back and costing tens of thousands of pounds. Is that going to apply here on the island? And it's going to decimate the monies that are in the kitty for the people who are genuinely ill.
Oh, well, that'll be down to Manx Care as well. All right, Howard, thanks for calling.
Take care. Bye now.
Good to hear from you. 15,000 extra people, says 404. Manx Care to spend less. How's that going to work, I wonder? Again, everybody's telling me that it was a temporary structure that was happening. And Bill says Tramway Terrace was falling down and needed knocking down within a week, and the tramway service was cut short. That was nearly a year ago. Now, how much is the scaffolding hire cost in that past year? Do they hire scaffolding? I thought you bought scaffolding. I thought you just had it and it was up there for as long as you wanted it. Anyway, if any scaffolding firms can tell us, how much would a year's scaffolding cost, I wonder, for that? Maybe they just bought it. Desmond says, too much money is spent on drugs. Says, what sort of drugs, Des? I bet the cost savings will come from the employees. Let's have a look here. And Daphne says, I use Dr. Google now and never get an appointment to see a doctor. The care bit is a bit long gone, isn't it? The caring nurses have a tough job and I don't envy them. Kindest regards. All the very best, Daphne. Good to hear from you. Julian with us now. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. Did I read somewhere that somebody asked a question about that wall at the memorial, if it was just bonded to the top or if it was actually sunk into the foundations?
I think, yes, there was a question about that.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? I mean, it's not going to last long with some of the waves we get on Douglas Promenade sometimes. I have got a main thing about healthcare, but just quickly, I noticed that after 3 people in Port St Mary and 2 in Port Erin were hog-tied at gunpoint, along with 61 neighbours evacuated, and the bomb squad brought over from the UK, and the result of all this drama is that 2 people have been released on bail. So, a couple of questions I've got. Why weren't non-lethal tasers deployed initially, albeit with firearms available as a backup if necessary? Was this a proportionate response on the Isle of Man? And is it perhaps time, as a few people have said, to take perhaps a closer look at our common travel area border arrangements, especially as in that video that you said you'd seen at Port St Mary, it seems evident that the person videoing didn't know who the person was 2 doors down that was being arrested.
Yeah, well, I mean, not every neighbour knows everybody, do they?
No, but that'd be interesting. But it just seems, why were lethal weapons drawn straight away? It just seems a little bit extreme to me. I mean, tasers do the same kind of job, don't they? And then you haven't, you don't want to be hit by a 5.56 round at that range, really, do you?
Yeah, well, I mean, they didn't know if anybody inside had a firearm, did they? I mean, we're kind of speculating here, but they didn't know what the people inside, whether they had any weapons. So they're kind of damned if they do and damned if they don't. I mean, as I said, it did look extreme, but maybe extreme measures were needed. We don't know.
I suppose, really, what is the rate of people having extreme use of firearms on the Isle of Man?
Not much.
To the proportion. No. Anyway, my main point, there's a new worldwide petition called the Hope Accord, HOPE. The Hope Accord can be found on the internet at thehopeaccord.org. The 5 key points of this petition include immediate suspension of the COVID-19 mRNA vaccine product, comprehensive re-evaluation of the safety and efficacy of all COVID-19 vaccine products, the immediate recognition and support for the vaccine injured, restoration of ethical principles abandoned during the COVID-19 era, like first do no harm, informed consent, bodily autonomy, and the notion that adults protect children, not the other way around, and finally, addressing the root causes of our current predicament by investigating institutional groupthink, conflicts of interest, and suppression of scientific debate. This new petition has already garnered almost 57,000 signatures, including 2,000 medical doctors, over 5,000 healthcare professionals, almost 2,000 scientists and academics, and 48,000 concerned citizens. So it's quite new, and it seems to be gaining an awful lot of recognition.
What's the point of it? What are they aiming to do?
Well, they are concerned that the actual mRNA platform, instead of, a deadened existing virus being put in your arm, and then the cells around in that localized area then share that information as how to get rid of it, the mRNA is literally a gene editing which teaches your cells to go and make an antigen that your body responds to in preparation. The problem is they're now finding that it's not limited either in where it is, what's called biodistribution, so it can go all the way to the brain. And of course, if you start making lots and lots and lots of antigens, your body's going to do lots and lots and lots of autoimmune response to this. And also, in general, it's just maybe a couple of days where your body responds to the initial thing. But they're saying that these mRNA sort of signals that are being sent to your cells, hundreds of days, maybe years, in which case your body is constantly creating its own kind of red flag for your own immune system.
Wow.
And including Dr. Robert Malone, who's the co-inventor of the mRNA platform, who said this was not ready for deployment in humans. It was definitely something to be looked at for the future. Dr. Asim Malhotra, that's been all over, including the BBC, who's a consultant cardiologist, saying that it's definitely not good to have this rollout. Okay. And I noticed that Moderna, they've just had the FDA has just approved their new mRESVIR, RSV, respiratory syncytial virus mRNA vaccine number 1345, and Pfizer and Moderna are currently working on the HSV, herpes simplex virus one. Moderna's one is called 1608P101, and Pfizer's is BNT163. And from memory, those are the ones that are given to school kids, aren't they?
Well, I mean, this is all down to this Hope Accord is obviously trying to get some public backing, and we'll see what happens. I mean, on the street, when everybody queued up for COVID vaccines, not many people really knew or cared about how it worked, did they?
No, that's right. And of course, the Regulation 174, which was the emergency usage authorization, which incidentally is still running. I mean, if you look out the window, I don't know if you can see an emergency, but I mean, anyone that's going for any of these COVID vaccines, it's still running under an emergency authorization. It's not actually approved as yet.
And what happened? What happened to monkeypox? I thought that was threatening us a couple of weeks ago.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is some isolated person-to-person contact thousands of miles away. So, and of course, this raises the point that just recently Congress, in America, has rejected the amendments to the international health regulations for now, anyway.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. Listen, we got to go. Julian, everybody's queuing up behind you, but have a good weekend.
You too, Andy. Thanks. Bye.
Good to hear from you. I want to go to, let me see, it's Chris who's with us now. Hi, Chris.
Hi.
Hi, Chris.
Andy, good afternoon to you. Hi. Just a couple of quick points, not why I rang you. 2 points about the taxation. That was supposed to be a temporary measure while I found another way to recover that money. So one way or the other, the taxation will continue, even if it isn't at 22%. The second point, your last caller talking about the impact of COVID. Interesting. COVID injections. Interesting. I'd never had a problem with my heart, and once I started taking the COVID jab, that was a vehicle going past, by the way, not me. When I had the COVID jab, I got cardiac arrhythmia when my heart wasn't running properly, and I thought, oh hell, it must be the jab. I went off the injections, and 12 weeks later, my heart returned to normal. But the reason for ringing you is I'm really exercised about this ludicrous consultation by DOI on private car use. I mean, it's ludicrous in itself, in its reading, insofar as the reason it gives for wanting to reduce car use, apart from this nonsense about active travel, is that they wanted to reduce the amount of exhaust fumes coming out of vehicles. But that's reducing anyway, A, because of the progressive transfer to electric vehicles, and 2, because over recent years, petrol and diesel engines have got a damn sight more efficient. So their reason is faulty in the first instance. So you're left wondering, where on earth, what is the reason for this? And if you look across to UK, you see this awful situation where they're trying to suppress free speech, they're trying to suppress expression of opinion, and they're also trying to, they've created a war on the car driver. Now, what authority has the DOI on the Isle of Man got to replicate on a Me Too basis what's happening in the UK?
And we don't know whether this was elected representatives or whether it was the department that came up with this.
Well, okay. First of all, how many people standing at the last election, Andy, said, I want a war on private car driving?
Nobody.
Nobody. So why on earth, what authority has DOI now got to publish a consultation like that? Because, as we all know, a consultation is supposed to preempt a decision and a direction of travel, forgive the pun there. So I think the Minister, Tim Crockall, better get on the radio and explain to everybody what he thinks he's up to, because he has no authority to act in the way the consultation suggests that the DOI wants to. Or have we got to the ridiculous situation now where we just follow what the UK does, that the established governmental system has no regard or interest in a democratic process? I mean, I'm really furious about this, and I want an answer, Andy, from Tim Crockall. Did he just make a mistake? Was it an oversight? Or does he actually want to declare war on car drivers?
Okay,
because that's where it's going.
Okay.
All right.
How's your heart anyway these days? Everything okay?
It's fine. 12 weeks after I stopped taking COVID jabs, my heart returned to normal.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Have a good weekend, Chris.
Andy, nice to talk to you. Bye.
29 minutes past 12. Beastie's on now. Hi, Beastie.
Hello, Andy. Were you in Ramsey the other day?
I was, actually. What was that sailboat there? What was that big galleon with sails on by the Mesrons tie-up?
I don't know.
Somebody told me there was a beautiful sailboat there. It was a two-masted thing. It was absolutely gorgeous.
How wonderful. But you have to be in Ramsey to see it.
It was a lovely day.
Yeah, jolly good. Now, if you were living in Ramsey, other than on a Saturday when you can get veggies from Bryrad on the quay and there's the market, in the week, where in Ramsey would you buy Manx vegetables?
Oh, you're struggling. You're struggling, aren't you? I mean, there may be a couple of farm shops on the outskirts, but that's about your lot, isn't it?
In the town, there's no farm shops in the town.
No, but I mean on the outskirts, if you're heading out into the country.
Sandygate and Solby, Burwood New, I think there's a place down there. But actually in the town, I've been told that the new Tesco's is opening on Thursday. Well, they're not going to have Manx veg, are they? We should all protest against this, you know. They must be made to sell Manx stuff. Anyway, there is somewhere in Ramsey you can buy Manx vegetables.
Okay.
And you would never guess where it is. And I'm on the phone today to let people know so that they can rush there immediately.
And where is it, Beastie?
The butchers, of course.
The butchers?
Well, that's where you go for your veg, isn't it?
Well, maybe in Ramsey, yes.
Now selling Manx veg, and I recommend everybody go there. And while you're there, you can buy some Manx meat instead of getting the horrible stuff from Tesco's.
And make sure you pay with Manx pound notes as well.
Pound notes? I didn't think they were legal tender anymore.
Oh, no, you can use Manx pound notes. Get as many used Manx pound notes. In fact, stock them up for Christmas. Give them as Christmas presents.
Oh, no, I give the £5 coins for Christmas presents because they look like Christmas money, don't they, the £5 coins? The £5 coins?
You're just one of those enigmatic millionaires from the north.
Oh, so get yourself to Tears if you want Manx veg.
Okay.
And buy some Manx meat while you're there.
All right.
But Andy, seriously, what a state this island has got into.
Beastie, it's funny. We had some guests over in the summer. They stayed at a hotel, and we were with them for a week or so. And they said, over the past few years, it's weird. And they noticed how bits of Manxness have just dropped off. If you count Ramsey Bakery going, ShopRite going, the Isle of Man Bank disappearing up its own. Well, just fewer and fewer branches and what have you. There are just bits of Manxness crumbling off, it seems.
Well, it's the English civil servants, isn't it? They pay them $100,000 a year. They come over here because they were no good at their job in England. They don't get the Isle of Man. They actually think it's part of England, and they are turning it into England. It's got to be stopped, but who's going to stop it?
But I mean,
the MHKs aren't going to, are they?
I've heard this kind of rumour before that we get failed English civil servants who come here and think they're going to educate the natives.
Well, I don't think they even think there's natives. I don't think they understand that it's the Isle of Man.
Oh,
they are turning it into England. And how can the natives stop it happening? Because the MHKs aren't.
Well, there used to be some very senior civil servants in years gone by who were Manx who wouldn't have let that happen.
They would not have let it happen, and we should not let it happen. But what can we do? What can we do to stop it? Stop the Anglicization of the Isle of Man. I predict within 10 years we will be part of England.
Oh, Beastie.
That's my prediction.
Oh, Beastie. Quick.
I do.
Wash your mouth out.
But the way it's going, we will be taken over by England.
What's your favourite Manx vegetable?
Well, I had a fantastic Romanesque from Tears the Butcher's the other day. You know, those really fancy-looking ones. Do you know the ones I mean?
A Romanesque?
They are exotic.
What's a Romanesque when it's at home?
Well, it's a cauliflower broccoli type thing, but it's just so fantastic. Look it up. You've got technical means. Find a photo of it. You will be flabbergasted.
A Manx Romanesque.
A Manx Romanesque, indeed.
All right. Have a good weekend, Beastie.
And you, and everybody else as well. Bye-bye.
Hello,
Bye-bye.
this is Doug Farragher. In conjunction with Manx Radio, I'd like to invite you to join us and learn something about our native Gaelic tongue, the language of man.
Waltons have hundreds of TVs in stock ready to go, from Samsung to LG, here on the island. Plus, a large range of main appliances in stock, including fridge freezers, washing machines, and everything your home will need from all the top brands like Smeg, Samsung, and Hotpoint. With special offers throughout the store and delivery and installation available, check out Waltons on Facebook or waltons.im. Or, even better, visit Waltons in Isle of Man Business Park, opposite Robinson's, for great prices and great service.
There's monkeys and meerkats, penguins galore. You can meet with a panda, owls, lemurs and more.
The Currachs Wildlife Park is open 7 days a week. So book your tickets and experiences online now at currachswildlifepark.im.
I've just called the Guernsey Bank, Skipton International, about our savings.
And did you get a helpful robot?
No. At Skipton International, you speak to a very helpful, real person.
That's refreshing these days.
Well, that's why I chose them, for the perfect combination of personal customer service and some of the best savings rates. All by calling 01481 730 730 or visit skiptoninternational.com.
Skipton International is licensed to take deposits by the Guernsey Financial Services Commission and is a participant in the Guernsey Banking Deposit Compensation Scheme. Details at dcs.gg. Terms and conditions apply.
The Isle of Man Festival of Motoring is back this September, and this year we're celebrating the very best of Britain with a huge gathering of British classic and sports cars. Starting in Peel over lunchtime on September the 19th, then the Isle of Man Motor Museum and Derby Circuit on the 20th, Douglas Prom on Saturday the 21st, and finally Morag Park on the 22nd. Find out more at iomfm.com. Enjoy the best of British with the Isle of Man Festival of Motoring, revving up the island this September.
Coming up, we have another winning weekend here on Manx Radio. And this time, we've teamed up with the Mannin Hotel to give you a chance to win an overnight stay for two with breakfast. All you have to do is listen out for our winning question, which we'll ask on air right across the weekend. And once you've heard it, text your answer to 166 177. The Mannin Hotel is the perfect choice for a home away from home, with cosy bedrooms, an inviting open-plan restaurant, and a lounge bar offering the ultimate in comfort. Make this your winning weekend with the Mannin Hotel in Douglas and your nation station, Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Oh, after Mannin Line today, it's Friday, and you know we're 60 years old. I may have mentioned it before, but from the archive, we're going back to 1981 after Mannin Line. Terry Kringle, the late great Kringle, was at Douglas West for the Declaration. And the two MHKs elected Douglas West, you're going to love this, Victor Kneale and Clifford Irving, as they react to victory and defeat. Victor Kneale and Clifford Irving at Douglas West, 1981. Juan's on now. Hi, Juan.
Hey, Andy. Well, the seawall's coming down by the memorial, I see, by the war memorial. It's getting dug away as we speak. So I see they've found some incident tape for the railings that's missing further over on the promenade after it being left all summer with the rustus railers lying on the sand. They've actually found some incident tape to put on this last week.
Well, they probably filled out a form. You see, that's it. Once the form's filled out, you're issued with tape.
Well, I thought they might have been recycling some of the instant tape from Port St Mary and reusing it. I don't know, just a thought. It might be a conspiracy theory. There you go. Talking of that, was that Chris Robertshaw that was on before? It sounded very much like Chris Robertshaw.
It was certainly Chris, yes.
It was, yeah. And I talking about the arrhythmia and the COVID vaccines, and you know what? I mean, for the last 3 years, Andy, I've been called everything on this show. And
oh, no, for more than 3 years, Juan.
Yeah, yes, I was being kind to myself. Not so much these days. Not so much these days. Interesting that, and what Chris was saying there. 3 people I've spoke to this week who had the same issues with arrhythmia with taking these vaccinations. So not so much feedback or pushback as what I've had in the last few years, let's say. And that brings me on to assisted dying. An article this week about a young lady in Europe claiming for assisted dying because of the injuries given to her by the COVID vaccine shot. Another thing to think about. It's all there in the papers if people want to read it. Switch off Coronation Street and go and look for something factual. And the ATC problem, I was reading that this week as well, that 15,000 people being affected in Gatwick with their issues with ATC problems, and the majority of it is Jet2 and EasyJet flights, I believe. So it's not just us that's having this problem. So we've got a double knock-on. I think the problem that we have here as well is if they've got this knock-on in Gatwick, we could solve our problem by having the airport open a little bit later and welcoming these flights in. I mean, if they're in the air and they're getting turned back, surely we've got a local issue here. Surely they could lengthen the airport opening for...
Well, the thing is, Joanne, we hire people, we've hired airport directors in the past to make sure that the airport works. I mean, we don't... most people don't want a running commentary on how the airport's working. They just want it to be working when they want it to be working. And you would assume that's what people are hired for. It's called customer focus, and we're the customer. We are the people who fly. We're the people who use it. So you would think that anybody running the airport, it's not a job creation scheme. It's for the customer. And you would think that that's who they have in mind first and foremost.
You would think so, and I think, it's majorly embarrassing when a flight is loaded and actually in the air and coming over here and has to turn back. I don't see any logic in that. And I mean, defending the ATCs, as I said, there's a problem in Gatwick, which is they're having a severe problem there. But we can help our problem by just extending them hours to let these flights come in. I just don't get it. And just on another note, finishing off, the meat plants. I mean, Head of News might be able to find out more, or one of the team. I believe another freezer's gone down this week.
Didn't know that.
No. Well, that's just come through from someone who's
how old are these freezers that they've got?
Well, I don't know, Andy, but it leads to the question, if you've got issues with this stuff, surely you'd be fixing it. And I have to ask the question, as Beastie was saying there before, you've got to scratch your head at some of the stuff that's going on here at the moment, and the politicians are, I know they're on their little holiday at the moment, but they're sat silent. And there's things going on around us which have no place on this island, and it might sound as though it's conspiratorial, but you start to tend to think: has anyone got an appetite to help this stuff along, or are they just going to let this go to waste? I mean, another load of meat that's going to get dumped this week. That's crazy.
Okay, all right. Have a good weekend, Ewan.
Take care, Andy.
Good to hear from you. Well, we wait and then next week, of course, it's the government conference at the Comis Hotel. So obviously the Chief Minister will be hard at work this weekend, as will all the ministers, getting their stuff together. We'll have reporters there at the Comis, so you'll hear all about it, if indeed you're not going yourself. But obviously there has to be a vision for the future. The government has got stated aims, and one of them is to get the population to 100,000. So roughly about another 15,000 people will have to come and set up shop on the Isle of Man. How many of those? Perhaps 4,000 or 5,000 will be workers contributing to NI and ITIP and keeping the economy going and thriving. Of course, we don't intend to survive. We need to thrive. But the politicians have to have a vision for the future, and a vision that they can communicate to we the people, just to make sure that everybody's on board. The Post just bought me a UK tax bill. Got to be a UK tax bill. Des, crikey, what have you been doing? You've sent me a copy on WhatsApp, and I appreciate that. Wouldn't you think the hospital would start doing private operations to raise some money to help the shortfall in the hospital budget, says Chris in the North? Well, that private unit has been absolutely unused for ages and ages, pre-COVID, I think. And the private ward itself, I have to say, if you've been to a private ward across, our private ward doesn't bear much of a resemblance to a private ward across. Anyway, if somebody's going to do it and that contributes to the bottom line, then okay. Scrap the project immediately, says Roy B. Manx Care isn't working. Mark my words, the very last thing to be scrapped will be MHK's pensions. Meanwhile, we're paying more for an ever-reduced service. I've heard surgeons up at the hospital are buying their fourth house to rent. Well, that's skeet, obviously. We need to look into what we're paying the elite workers in the NHS. We also need to look into management and their wages too. But what on earth are our government doing for their salaries, apart from wringing their hands occasionally and smiling up to election seasons? Now, crikey, what's going on? Thank you, Roy B. Good to hear from you. That point about elites, I mean, personally, I have nothing against elites. I mean, if I want a brain operation, I want an elite surgeon. I want the very best person. I don't know about you. So elites, when you're talking about a medical set, I think elites are great. You have the best nurses, you have the best care, you have the best consultants, the best surgeons. Elites, I think, are okay there. So we need to spend money in those places. Well, we'll see. Obviously, the Chief Minister's got the bit between his teeth. Difficult times call for difficult decisions, says Susan. Just hopefully the assisted dying could help save money for Manx Care and offer civil servants a potential deserved pay rise. We need to get this in sooner rather than later, says Susan. And Active Travel, text to 376 that they want people to ditch the car. Why don't they allow electric scooters to be used? I think many would use these for getting to work or the shops. They have schemes in cities in England. It makes a lot of sense. I rang Kestrel Insurance to inquire if I could get insurance for them, and they laughed at me. and said, no, you can't get electric scooter insurance here. In all fairness, they have speedometers, they have good ranges for day-to-day travel and take up no more space than a bicycle. 376 likes electric scooters. And from the answer phone...
Hello, I'd like to reply to Peter today. Every time Peter comes on, for some reason, he cannot understand that suicide and terminally ill people are two completely different things. He thinks, well, I don't know what he thinks, but I am a terminally ill person. I have a terminal cancer diagnosis. Never in my life have I felt suicidal. I've never tried to commit suicide. I don't think I'll ever try to commit suicide. You know, I am not suicidal in any way. But what I will have the option of, if it's allowed to me, is to end my life on my terms and to die with dignity if I am in pain and suffering, and to also save my family from going through that. That doesn't mean I'm suicidal. I won't have any suicidal thoughts. It's a different thing altogether. You know, if you're suicidal, people can probably turn your mind around, hopefully, you know, and set you on another road. You've become suicidal because you're depressed, or, you know, you're upset, or, you know, lots of reasons people become suicidal. You've got no hope. The only reason that I would want to end my life with dignity is because I have a disease that is killing me already. It's not that I want to commit suicide at all. You know, I am dying of a disease. It's completely different. And also, when Peter talks about the finances, the amount of money that it must cost to keep people like myself alive when we don't want to be kept alive anymore must outweigh, you know, the actual act of ending my life one way or another, however they're going to do it, through the dying with dignity. So, you know, it's absolutely rattles my bones when people like Peter get this confused with suicide. I am terminally ill. I am not suicidal. That is it.
When the Mannin Line's not on air, call Manx Radio to leave your opinion for broadcast on 682 631.
After an impressive midweek win, FC Isle of Man returned to the bowl this weekend for their latest test in the NWCFL Premier Division. Saturday evening sees Kneale Town become the latest visitors to Manx Shores this season, with the Ravens hoping to keep up their unbeaten start to September. Join me, Rob Pritchard and Tony Mepham for FC Isle of Man versus Kneale Town, kicking off at 6 p.m. on Saturday. Manx Radio will be bringing you full live match commentary on our DAB and AM 1368 channels. Live coverage of FC Isle of Man on Manx Radio is supported by Selton, investing in our community.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
11 minutes to 1. Betty's on now. Hi, Betty.
Hi, Andy. Just to say, I totally agree with that lady who was last on. But I did come on because I too have had a reaction to the vaccination. Now, as an ex-nurse, I know that any vaccine can cause a reaction to a particular individual. So I had a vaccination, and I started having breathlessness on exertion on the vaccine before last. But I was advised that probably this only happened to young men and maybe not to older people. But it did happen to me. And then I went on to have a further vaccination, hoping that everything would be all right. But I was just much worse. And now I can't walk as far as I did before. And all I'm saying is that it can happen. And, you know, it's one of those risks that people have to take when they take the vaccination, which probably overall is a quite good thing to have.
OK. All right. We appreciate it. Thanks, Betty. Have a good weekend.
And you, Andrew. Thank you for having this service where people can speak out.
Not at all. No, not at all. I'm just a custodian. It's been here for years. David's finally with us now. Hi, David.
Hi, Andy. Just to correct one thing you said about we haven't used the private wing. Don't forget all the work that was done for hips and knees and other things.
That's it, yes. Synaptics have been using it, haven't they?
They have, yeah. So we've never had the opportunity, that's not the subject I was talking about, we've never had the opportunity to say to Synaptic, could they do other things, private work? There must be quite a number of people that want to do, have things done, treatment, stuff like that. But we've never engaged in that. We've been promised that. But that wasn't the topic I was going to talk about, really, was. You led me into that one. It was the DOI. Do you remember the DOI and the questionnaire that was done some time ago, months ago, by an English company regarding what happens on the island? There was about 50-odd questions, and it was done with you had to post it back to England, so it was a self-addressed envelope there.
Yeah.
We don't know what's happened to the questionnaire. Nobody seems to be talking from the DOI regarding what was the outcome.
No, heard absolutely nothing.
Zilch, but that's outstanding. I just want to try and clear the decks a little bit too. And of course, I've sent you the bus stop on Governor's Road there.
Oh yes. Crikey.
I'm going to put an award into it, and there may be a trophy if anybody can have something can top the one we've got in Uncan. And I haven't had a response yet. I'm being promised a response. The good thing about the Mannin Line and you as Andy Wint, we seem to get answers. But on this one, we're a bit slow.
Okay. All right. Have a good weekend.
See you, boy.
Thanks for being with us today. And just a quick word, Peter Kelly's been on. The Camera Obscura finishes this weekend. So the Camera Obscura, subject to weather, is going to be on tomorrow 1 till 4 and Sunday from 11 till 4. The 100+ year Camera Obscura, our famous Camera Obscura, one of very few, of course, in the British Isles. And there aren't that many in the world. And we've got one here, about 100 yards from where I'm sitting. Right, that's it. Don't forget Phil Gorn and Alfred Cannon on Sunday talking... Well, you heard what he's talking about. A week today, Tim Johnson, the Enterprise Minister, Tim Johnson, MHK, and Mark Lewin, his Chief Officer, are going to be in, where we're talking about Enterprise and all the bits in there. A fortnight today, Alfred Cannon is on Mannin Line. The Chief Minister is going to be in. And between them, the Chair of the Housing Communities Board, David Ashford, will be on. He was talking about what the government has done to improve the housing situation on the Isle of Man. But we're back with an open line on Monday. Remember, 682-631 for the answer phone. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones today. Have a fantastic weekend and make the most of the weather.
WINT. 60 years serving you as the nation's station. This is Manx Radio.
In the general election of 1981, over 4 decades ago, a Legislative Council member stepped down from the upper chamber to argue the case for an electric Legco and stand for the House of Keys. Well, Victor Kneale won back his seat in West Douglas. At the same time, in the same constituency, a politician with a long and distinguished career lost his. Colin Brown described events.
Probably the constituency which caught the imagination of the public more than any other was West Douglas, where 5 candidates, including 4 sitting members of Tynwald, were fighting for the seats. This was how Terry Kringle gave the result.
Mr. Victor Kneale is back and Mrs. Betty Hanson is back. The voting was as follows. Mr. Kneale topped the poll, 2,406 votes, an enormous landslide. Mrs. Hanson, the sitting member, 1,093. The other 3 candidates, Clifford Irving, Independent, 976. Brian Gelling, Independent, 948. Mr. Edward Cameen, Independent, 735.
Later, Terry Kringle spoke to Mr. Kneale and asked him if it had been a carefully calculated risk or a political gamble.
It was a calculated risk, I suppose, but something I believed in. I hope this is encouragement for the rest of the Legislative Council to vote for the bill that I'll be introducing to have them elected also.
Are you surprised at the size of your majority?
Well, delighted with it. I was hoping for a good majority, but not expecting anything as much as this.
Well, as you say, you wanted to draw attention to your idea that the upper house should be popularly elected by coming back to the Keys. So are you going to take any positive action on that very soon?
I certainly will be. I can guarantee that.
Mr. Clifford Irving here. Cliff, a long and very distinguished and honourable and colourful career. Is it the end, or can you come back?
Oh, I think it surely must be the end. Maybe the electors of West Douglas know when I quit, and perhaps I don't. No, I've had a very long time. I've had a good innings, as people say.
Was it a mistake shifting constituencies?
I don't know. I felt that I'd been involved in the tourist area long enough, and it was time someone else had a go.
Part of island life for 60 years. This is your Manx Radio.